I'm very interested in healthy diet and vitamins and herbs and so forth. But most of my talk is going to be focusing on homeopathy. And I'm going to share a few reasons for that. One is that, again, I owned a health food store. I worked a lot with vitamins and herbs. I asked people when they would come in and buy something what it was for and how they could tell that it worked. And what I found that was in general, people taking vitamins and herbs would notice a long-term effect. It would contribute to their overall health long-term. But homeopathy could work very quickly and sometimes even immediately. Sometimes as soon as someone would put it in their mouth, they would feel it. As soon as the pellet would touch their mouth, they would feel pain relief. There was a study on homeopathy versus antibiotics for ear infections. And interestingly, not only did the homeopathy shorten the overall duration, but it provided much quicker pain relief. And I'm saying this because I think, when a child is sick, of course, a mom wants to do the right thing, and she doesn't want to do too much experimenting with woo-woo stuff when the so-called real stuff, well, she knows that's going to work. So I think it's important to mention, ways that we know that these natural healing things can actually work better than the antibiotics. I want to give people the confidence and the courage to try them. I had a friend who was a homeopathic family care doctor before he retired. And he said when a child came in with ear infections, he would give a homeopathic remedy and also a prescription for antibiotics. And he would say, if it's not better by tomorrow, go ahead and fill the prescription. But he said nobody ever did. They all
Oh,
took
that's
the
great.
remedy.
Can
Yeah.
you explain to people who don't know what homeopathic remedies are, just how they work?
Big
Just
question. Sure.
in a simple kind of way.
Sure. And actually, I have this picture here of the little pellets for people who have never used them. It comes in the form of these little tiny pellets. They are sugar pills. And for people who feel like they absolutely have to avoid sugar, there are a couple of things that they can do. I don't want people to kind of shut their minds down to this form of healing just because it's usually carried in the form of sugar pills. Two things you could do. One is to dissolve a couple of these tiny pellets into a glass of water. Stir really well. Stir, stir, stir really well. The whole glass of water takes on the properties of the remedy, and one sip becomes a dose. And at that point, there's very minimal sugar. They can also be ordered online in an alcohol base, and then the drops of the alcohol-based remedy can be put into very hot water to drive off the alcohol. This is for people who feel like they absolutely strictly have to avoid any form of sugar. So when you get an herbal medicine, it has some of the original plant in it. It's made by perhaps crushing up the leaves or the roots or the bark and steeping in alcohol and extracting some of the physical stuff from the plant. When you make a homeopathic remedy, you start often with a plant, and but you put it through many, many dilution processes. If you were only diluting it, honestly, it wouldn't work. It would get milder and milder and weaker to the point where there was none of the original starting substance left. And at that point, it would be true what the critics say, that it can't work because there's nothing in it. The fact is, we do something else. We don't just dilute it. There's a shaking process. It's called succussing. And what that does is it allows information from the starting substance to be imprinted or recorded into the water that it's being shaken in. And again, I know this sounds woo-woo, but there's work being done now by physicists and by a Nobel Prize winning chemist that shows that there's an actual change in the structure of the water. Think of little snowflakes in the water. Snowflakes are all H2O, but they're all different patterns. They record information. You can't see this with the naked eye, but there are now microscopes strong enough to show it, that information is being recorded from the starting substance, which is an herb or a vitamin, or a herb or mineral or other substance. It's being recorded and it transmits information to your body's healing energy, somewhat like a computer, like a flash drive. When you insert a flash drive into a USB port, you're going to transfer information. Homeopathy works something like that, which is why
Okay.
it can work immediately. So it's basically speaking to your body's healing energy. So is that okay, Maria? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I could spend hours. In my homeopathy school, I would spend a whole day talking about the research and the mechanism of action and the physics of it and so forth. But this is
Yeah.
just a quickie.
I just wanted
So
a little quick overview because a lot of people haven't
yeah,
experienced it. And what is that?
what is this stuff? So, and kids love taking it because it's basically little sugar pills, and so
Hmm.
kids will ask for it. And this is one of the joys of my practice working with kids. I have 4-year-olds in my practice who can actually pronounce the names of their remedies. They know when they get a cough, they need one remedy. When they get a sore throat, they'll need a remedy. Like they'll say to their mom, lycopodium. They can say it, and they know, and they're right. They know which remedy they need. It's not just that they want the sugar; they know which remedy is going to make them feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's safe. If a kid swallows a whole tube of it, the worst that can happen, if it's the remedy the child needs, they might feel temporarily worse, but then as they come out of that, they're going to feel much better. And if it's a remedy they don't need, like they get their little sister's remedy or something, if they don't need it, they won't respond to it, because there's a way in which homeopathy is like striking a tuning fork and another tuning fork only of the same pitch. Another tuning fork will respond, but
Mm-hmm.
other tuning forks of different pitches don't. The remedy is like striking a certain note in a way, and if the person needs it, they're going to respond. But if they don't, nothing will happen. So very safe to have around kids. We've had kids who've gone through their mother's whole homeopathic remedy kit when she wasn't looking, and swallowed the contents of all the tubes, and the mom never knew because nothing ever happened. And I
Oh.
mentioned safe to share with other parents, because what I find happening in my practice, I saw a mom yesterday who's her kid plays soccer, of course, they all do. So she's found arnica for all those, the pulled muscles, and the kid falls down and bumps his knee or whatever. Not only is her own kid coming, but now the other kids are coming and saying, "Hi, Mrs. So and so, can I have some of that stuff you have that makes me feel better?" So, I do ask parents to get permission from the other parents. It's not good to be dosing kids with anything without asking the
Right.
parents, but the other parents are really interested. They want to get the arnica too. So here's a couple other things. Well, the whole purpose of this talk is how to prevent recurrence. Like with antibiotics, if you give antibiotics, what I'm going to tell you is from conventional medical research. It's not from like homeopathic woo-woo assertion. Taking an antibiotic is a setup for a further infection because it affects your immune system.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with homeopathy, the child will end up healthier than before. And also, a homeopathic remedy can be used for prevention. I'm going to mention, for example, a flu remedy. If one person in the family has the flu, you can give a dose of the same remedy to everybody in the family to stop them from getting the flu. It's safe to use during pregnancy. For example, if a woman is on antidepressants and she's considering getting pregnant, this is not something it's not really for self-care. It's hard to figure out your own antidepressant, so to speak, in homeopathy. But she could go to a professional homeopath and switch from medical antidepressants to a homeopathic remedy, and also safe to use during breastfeeding. Can't overdose. I mentioned that before, even if your child swallows a whole bottle. So inexpensive. I'm going to be showing you several different brands, and I'll be very specific about how much they cost and how much per dose, but it ranges from 20 cents per dose down to about a tenth of a cent per dose. Also very small and portable. The tubes are like this, half the size of a lipstick tube, so they're light, they're very easy to carry around, and you can even get a kit. I'll be showing you a kit that has 50 remedies in it,
Hmm.
that's about 2 inches by 4 inches by about 1 inch deep. And so you can take the whole thing with you if you're traveling, or keep it in your car or gym bag or whatever.